Hello YouTube, welcome to RH Make Studio, where today I'm going to be building Isaac Clarke's helmet from Dead Space.
I need it!
The files I'll be using today are from Galactic Armory's Patreon. All of their socials are on screen and a link will be in the description. I threw the files into my Neptune 4 3D printer and about
3 days later.
we were ready to go with well, a lot of pieces. There's a lot of pieces, we're still going. They're still coming. A lot of pieces. So many pieces, in fact, I opted to put the helmet together before I did any sanding. I took my wood burner and started PLA welding these together. While everything gets put together, I thought I could show you this thing that I found. It was buried out in the woods, and it's pretty cool. When you hold it up to your ear, though, it starts making some pretty weird sounds. So, I think I'm just gonna leave that right here. Now that the helmet was assembled, I needed to start thinking about sanding. I was hoping for weather more on the side of this. But it's winter, so I got this. I braved the frigid temperatures outside and got to work sanding this piece down with 180 grit sandpaper on my electric sander. It was pretty cold out, but by the end I got inside looking just a little worse for wear. Next up was the Bondo acetone mixture. All this is Bondo glazing and spot putty mixed with some acetone to thin it out. I hit the helmet with 2 layers of this just to make sure the majority of the gaps were filled. Anything I missed with the mixture just got a normal hit of spot putty. Always wear proper PPE when handling chemicals and sanding. Protect yourself. Or you can look like this guy. Next up was the wet sanding for this helmet. I used a mix of 220 grit sandpaper, sanding sticks, some needle files, and detail sanders to get the helmet ready for priming. I ended up using 3 coats of Rust-Oleum 2-in-1 filler primer on this helmet. Between each layer, I wet sanded with 400 grit sandpaper. It's worth mentioning that all of the smaller pieces that would get glued on later went through the same process, just with priming and no Bondo. With all of the sanding and filling done, we ended up with a pretty smooth helmet. I'm happy with it, so we were ready to move on to the painting. The whole helmet would get a base coat of Krylon matte black, then covered with Wicked Colors metallic bronze, which I was astounded by. This paint is great. Rather than go with the entirely bronze helmet, I masked off certain pieces that looked much darker in my references. The plan was to spray these parts with a metallic charcoal. So I went with Wicked Colors metallic charcoal, and I'm sure this paint would look great in other circumstances, but for me it just
Oh no!
something about it just didn't work right. I don't know if it was layering 2 metallics on top of each other, whether I should have re-primed, but I scrapped the idea and went with this dark gray. After detailing all of the pieces with that same gray paint, I could then attach them to the helmet using Gorilla Super Glue and E6000. Weathering the helmet turned out to be the most fun I had with this project. All I used was some water mixed with this apple barrel black acrylic paint. For the visor, I got this blue window tint and put 3 layers onto a piece of acrylic that I had cut for the helmet. Then I drew a grid pattern on the front with a chrome marker. Some final nicks and scratches were put on using a fan and a detail brush. And finally, we couldn't forget about Isaac's favorite snack of all time, strawberry jam. I mean, look at him, he loves that stuff. I mixed up my own jam with some burnt sienna and cadmium red hue. I stirred that up with some water and I really got to get rid of that thing. Anyway, I was a little nervous, but after some practice throws, I just went for it. And that went much better than I expected. Last but not least, I threw in some LED strips, which were actually so bright they were blinding me, so I layered a black window tint over them inside the helmet to dim it down, and to make sure that you couldn't see inside of the helmet. With everything good to go, we could get to some glamour shots. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you want to see more builds like this, leave a like and consider subscribing.